Hi everyone, during this lesson we are starting to look at our speed, distance, time topic in more detail, and we will start with, as you can see, the heading of this slide is calculating distance. Got a quick starter here for you to do. Please only complete one of the questions and then come back on for the answer. Right, question 1 would be the pink lot of questions. We're looking to convert each of these time and hours and minutes into just minutes. So remember there are 60 minutes within 1 hour, therefore for question A we are looking to say, well, in minutes then we've got 60 minutes contained within the hour plus another 10, giving us 70 minutes altogether. In 2 hours then we have got 120 minutes plus 35, giving us 155 minutes. And the 1 hour and 56, we've got 60 minutes for the 1 hour plus 56, giving us 116 minutes. Hopefully that was quite straightforward to you. You got those okay? With the yellow-purple questions, we are converting these to decimal hours. So for the first one, it is 1 point, since we've got 1 whole hour, 1 point. Then we've got to do our 18 divided by 60, which gives us 0.3. Therefore, we put a 0.3 on the end. Question B, 3 point, again 48 divided by 60, gives us 0.8, so it's 3.8 hours. We've got 0 hours for our 15 minutes, so it's 0 point, and then 15 divided by 60, giving us 0.25 hours. Again, hopefully that was quite straightforward to you, based on the work that we've just done in the previous day's lesson. Right, so we're looking at calculating distance. We're working with speed, distance and time, and these three quantities are all related to one another. The main thing being that we use speed as average speed, which we'll talk about when we get to the speed calculations a little bit later on next week. So we can use this triangle that's on the right hand side, and I would like you to copy that into your jotter, please. The D stands for distance, S stands for speed, and T stands for time. Okay, that makes sense. That's the three terms within the topic heading. We can create formula from this diagram, or from this triangle, which we will look at a little bit later on. But the first quantity we're going to calculate today is to calculate distance. Now, a good way to use this triangle is, say we want to find distance, so we want to find the distance travelled by an object or a person or a vehicle, then we cover up the distance, so you can use your finger to cover up the distance, and the two quantities we are left with, that's the two we perform the calculation with. So if we cover up distance, we're left with S and T. Now essentially what this triangle is telling us to do is it's saying S and T are right beside each other. We know when quantities are right beside each other, so AB for instance, then we have to multiply those together. So if we want to find distance, we have to do speed times time, which means we have to know both the speed and the time to calculate the distance of an object. So the speed that it's travelling at and how long it takes to cover the certain distance, then we can calculate how far it's went. So let's have a look at these questions in context then. Generally we're talking about people driving or vehicles moving. So in this case we're told that a car is travelling at a speed of 50 miles per hour and it's travelling at that speed for 6 hours. So we can say then distance is speed times time, and I'm going to write that formula each and every time. And we'll say then, so our speed, 50 miles per hour. So speed is 50. Now think of this as being in a context. So 50, they go 50 miles every hour. So after 1 hour it's 50 miles. After 2 hours it's 100 miles. 3 hours it's another 50, 4 hours another 50, and so on and so on. So the fact that we're multiplying these two quantities together makes sense within the context of the question. Our time here is 6 hours, we've got to do 50 times 6. We will get then 300 something for our distance. Now the units are generally the hardest thing to get from these questions, especially if our numbers are quite simple. We are talking about quantities of miles per hour and hours. That's the reason that I can use these numbers exactly as they are. The two time quantities are the same. But I'm also talking about miles per hour. Therefore, so mph, generally we take that to mean miles per hour. So I'm talking about miles per hour, therefore it has to be 300 miles. So not kilometres, metres, anything like that, miles for this particular question. Right, let's have a look at another 3 questions, very similar to the ones we've had before. So, distance is speed times time. The speed is 70 kilometres per hour. So km, kilometres, slash means per, h is generally the hours. 70 times 7 hours. Now, the reason that we can do these two numbers multiplied together is because the hours and the h are the same units. Got to do 70 times 7, we'll get 490. What are our units? Check back to the question. It's kilometres. So we have to know our differences between measurements of time, measurements of speed, and measurements of distance, so we can actually apply these to the question. The next question here then, we've got a car travels at a speed of 50 miles per hour for 3 hours. Distance is speed times time. Speed is 50 miles per hour, so that's 50 times 3 hours, giving us 150 miles. Again, the reason we can use those two numbers just as they are is because we're working with miles per hour and hour, so those time quantities are the same. The last one on this page, distance is speed times time. That's all we're calculating today. Speed, we are told here, is 8 metres per second. So we take the number of 8. We are travelling at that speed for 15 seconds. So times that by the 15. Now, the time quantities here were different. We're used to talking about hours, now we're talking about seconds. Since they're both the same quantity, we're still measuring these in seconds for both the speed and the time, then we're able to multiply them together perfectly fine. So 8 times 15, and we'll get an answer of 120. We need to look back to the question for our units for length, that is metres. So it's not 120 miles this time, or kilometres, it is metres. To work out that question. So those of you doing pink, these will be the types of questions you'll be doing. Just multiplying the numbers together, making sure that you know what the numbers have to be. It's basically just multiplication, okay? But we're getting used to using these different formulas. We're just using the one of them just now before we move on to do the mixture of them. Those of you doing yellow and purple, then you'll be looking at these questions as well. So you can see here that I've now got hours and minutes, so I'm going to have to do something with that process before completing the question. So we're still trying to find the distance of each of these cars. It's still going to be speed times time. But in this case, so we've got a nice speed of 40 miles an hour, that's fine. Going to have to be 40 times something. My time is in hours and minutes. We are never going to do our calculations when we use these formulae with hours and minutes. We are always going to, if we are presented with hours and minutes, change it into decimal hours to perform the calculations with. So 1 hour and 30 minutes makes 1.5 hours. And that's why we spent the time in the previous lesson converting to those decimal times. So to complete this question, we have to do 40 times the time, which is 1.5. Now you will have the use of a calculator for this, so you can pop that in your calculator and you will get 60 miles. Now we've got hour calculations here and hours calculations here. That's why we can just times those two numbers together. Once we've got the decimal, we can just times it by the 40. The miles comes from the calculation or the notation in the speed units. It's miles per hour, so that therefore our distance is measured in miles. Lastly, we've got distance equals speed times time. Speed is the second part of the question here. It is 50. And we've got a time of 2 hours and 54 minutes. So again, change that to your decimal. It's going to be 2 point and then your 54 divided by 60. So it's 2.9 hours. Hours and hours match up. So we can use the 2.9 in the formula. Pop that in your calculator, 50 times 2.9, and we will get 145 miles as our final answer. Okay, I want everyone to please watch out for your units at the end of these questions, not just in today's lessons, but when we look at calculating speed and time in the lessons next week. Okay, you've got stuff on the Teams page to be getting on with. Please complete questions from your level and let me know if you need any assistance with them. Okay, thank you.